Hey YouTube, Roy Marko with Marko Custom Models coming to you today with AMT's Piranha Spy Car kit. And in the Super Spy Car kit, in this particular version, there's this little booklet. It has some pages on construction of the car and things like that. And on one of the pages is a road race version like this. And AMT also released a drag race version of the Piranha. And most people know that as the race car. So this is sort of my take on Piranha road race car. I can't make it exactly 100% because there's some big body style cues that were a little different on there's like 4 or 5 different generations of molds, and the back end on this car is a little different, so I kind of turned into a version that I thought would be workable. In the kit, you also get these Piranha, the decals and stuff that actually have the AMT logos for the hood and the 2 sides and the front fender and the number 3. So I was going to use those on this road race car. And I'll get into some of the modifications I did to get to where I did. So one of the things I did was I cut the roof, like the roof blues on, but I had actually cut the tops of the doors flat and filled in the door handles and made this air scoop in the front that allows air to come in and keep the downforce on the front end of the car down. But one of the interesting features of this model was the fact that it kind of comes in 2 halves and you have to glue it all together, which I'll show you how I got around that so you can take it apart and do all your detailed pieces and then put it together. I found a version on the internet that had these wheels on it, these torque thrusts 2s maybe you want to call them. Actually no, they're just torque thrusts, the old style torque thrusts. And I used those out of an AMT model. I think the 66 Nova came with them, as well as a 62 Bel Air. And so I just was going to go Steelies, but I ended up going for those, and I'll kind of get into that. One of the things I did was I utilized the engine out of a Blueprinter kit. If anybody's had one of these, AMT released a Blueprinter pack probably a couple of times. I think this was in the early 90s. And inside this is a Corvair engine that was a little more detailed than the Corvair engine that came in the model kit. And I'll show you that too. I also cut holes here for the velocity stacks for the engine. And I still got to work on a scoop. I kind of used part of the roof to make an air scoop to come in, but I'm not sure I really like this one, so I'm gonna work on I'm gonna work on this one as well as another one, and see what I got in the parts bin to see if I can find something that might suit the liking a little more. But this may work as the air scoop to come in and draw air into the engine bay. One of the big things I did was modify the dash a little. I utilized the gauge cluster that they had in the middle for the Spy Car, but I molded in the glove box door. And the reason it's primered is I wanted to make sure all the body work was smooth before I tacked that into the body there. It'll all get painted body color and then detail the gauges after. I also had to modify the tail end of the car, and I added some round tail lights, which we'll get into. I'll just show you that right now. Shut this off, move it out of the way. And so here's the tail end of the car. These are going to be the tail lights, and I got rid of that long tail light and kind of molded that in, and also continued that body lip around because this car is basically a bottom half and a top half that goes onto a chassis, and the model is the same way. But how I got around that so I can take this apart and work on it is I'd actually cut the chassis out of the body and then glued the bottom half of the body together. Before I actually cut it out, I left the whole thing together, but I had scribed the lines. They were almost cut through. And then I had glued everything together and held it together and got it to set up, and then I had finished cutting out the chassis. So you have the interior tub seat assembly molded into the top half, and then this bottom half is glued into here, so it's like one piece, so I can paint and detail this body and not have to worry about trying to glue it together afterwards. Glued the doors in, the dash is mounted again, that'll all get painted, and filled in some holes that were there for the roof to be mounted, as well as I glued in a couple supports that will hold the hood in place, the engine cover, so that it doesn't fall in. And I left these back holes here. I'm going to just fill them in with like a mesh so that you can see the engine detail, and it also allows for air to come in and for that air cooled Corvair engine that's on this thing. So that's the body, and filled in the gas door here because I'm going to put it in the front fender. So that's sort of the plan. Okay, that's the body. The chassis is glued the two halves together here, where the interior tub, which we sort of paint up separately, put it in, and then the bottom half that I had cut out, I had glued those together, so this is one piece. All of this will be painted black anyway. And then the engine, I glued the transmission into here because it's going to get painted black, and I had just put the engine on a steel pin, and this is that highly detailed engine out of that Blueprinter kit. But I did use the carburetors, the starter, and upgraded from a generator to an alternator. And then these are velocity stacks from Model Master. And I used actually the engine cover as well, because the Blueprinter engine doesn't have the air shroud to cool the fins. So to achieve that, this is still can be taken apart for detail and painting, and just fits. What I do is I put a steel axle through the engine block. Just going to be a little bit to get this apart here on camera. Okay, so there's the belt assembly, and then here's that engine shroud that came off of the other engine. I just primered that in black, and I enlarged the hole in the middle and stuff to fit the detail on this fan blade here, which also isn't glued in place. It's on that shaft. I can actually pull that off, but anyway, a little hard to do on camera. I don't want to break it. This can come off and be painted, and you can see this engine, if you can get in here, there's more detail on this engine than the one that comes in the kit. And then also I used the distributor off of the Piranha kit because it actually had 6 points on it. The other distributor that came molded on this engine only had 4, which is 6 cylinders. So that I'm just going to dry brush and paint, and I don't have to really get, it'll detail up really nice. So I'm not going to have to really spray that. I can just get that done up. And then, like I said, I just put a block in here, drilled a hole, and that allows the engine to sit in there. When it's all done, I can glue it in, get it lined up, and it's good to go. I used 2 different thicknesses of tires. These are the little skinnies. They're Firestones from AMT. These are little wider Firestones, but they have the same tread pattern. So it gave me skinnies in the front, wides in the back for that staggered race car look and appearance. And I filled in a couple of holes in the side here that were for the turbo setup that was on the other engine. And I just thought I'd clean up the engine bay. Also modified this. I opened it up. It was like it was filled in, and the panel went all the way to the end. So I just wanted a little more detail. So I opened it up. When you spray all this black and dry brush the tranny and stuff, I think it'll turn out pretty good. So that's the chassis. And the parts, the belts, the hood. I molded in this piece here. I glued in a piece of plastic and sanded it out. Left over from some of the other plastic I cut out of the car, and then I cut the 2 holes to line up with the intakes on the engine there. So that's the hood, and I don't know what else to really tell you about it. So yeah, that's how I'm making the road race car, and when I get this painted, I'll do another update. Also, I wanted to show you something that comes in the kit that what makes this car unique too is AMT. I got so excited about this car in real life that they sold a full-size version of the car, and that's why on the fender it says available in a full-size kit. So that was the kit. I found that picture online as well. And in the box, in the unboxing, I noticed when you take the box completely apart, in the bottom is a beautiful artwork print of the box art. So that was in the very bottom of the box. You have to take out all the cardboard and everything to get to it. So I didn't know that. So in the unboxing, that was one of the pieces that I wanted to show you. And yeah, that's it. So if you like, please subscribe, and hope you enjoy my builds, and have a great day.